And welcome to the Coca-Cola 600 post-game show. I'm the Coach Dick Cox, joined by Coach Barry Toney. Coach Toney, an eventful evening when it all came down to the very end. We didn't have a clue who won the race.
Hey, we sure didn't. And guess what, there, Coach? There probably a lot of other people didn't know who won the race either.
We watched them go around the track for 400 laps. We even took a tour and picked our best redneck vans in the infield, as far as the ones old school buses been converted into viewing towers though. Thank goodness the good Lord was looking out for us that we went and got the 9 o'clock snack, and while we were getting the snack, Jimmy Johnson hit the pit road fence where I was leaning the whole race up until we left for snack time, or we would have had a heck of a close-up shot tonight.
Hey, you're right there, Coach. And what I tell you, if I saw one of them cars heading my way, hey, I'd be going by as fast as they could to get away from that wall.
We would have probably been running like a snake was coming or something right there, though. But it was a great race. You know, the sad thing about this is the car that was the dominant car tonight and really ran well, a guy who needed a win in the worst kind of way because he's run good this year. He comes from a one-car team, needs to get this win to get in the chase, Martin Truex. Because of gas mileage, some guys gambled tonight and were able to get ahead of him. He dominated the race, led the most laps. He comes in fifth.
Hey, you're right there, Coach, but isn't that the way it is in a lot of other types of sports, too? Seems like things like that happen sometimes. That's just what you call the breaks of the game, but a very exciting race. And Coach, we didn't have too many caution flags to deal with. Looked like it was a pretty well-run race.
Did not really have any kind of the big one pile-ups or anything like that. First of all, let's congratulate the winner. Joe Gibbs gets the Charlotte Daily Double, and he won with Denny Hamlin last week driving the number 11 FedEx car. Tonight, the Subway car, Carl Edwards comes home. So Joe Gibbs has a great weekend at Charlotte, and his Toyota shop comes home with wins last Saturday night in the big one and tonight in the 600. So Coach Gibbs feeling pretty good right now.
Hey, you're absolutely right, and he's deserving of it. You know, pretty much a very team sport there, Coach. You can see how those pit crews, most of the cars that was coming in within 12 seconds, once they got in, they were out. And like you said, they can ill afford to get too far behind that pit stop because that throws them back on when they get back on the track.
And Coach Toney, people don't realize, you know, we've got these behind us. We're in front of Jeff Gordon's box right here, though, but they have got these $1 million carts behind us with computers, and they calculate down to the last drops of gas. The two best cars tonight were the 78 car to Martin Truex and the 41 car of Kurt Busch, excuse me. And those guys were the two that led the most laps. And because of fuel mileage, where they had to make a stop, some guys gambled, did not come in. Then again, Busch comes in 10th and Martin Truex comes in 5th. And the guys who gambled, a guy who has had a rough year, Greg Biffle, did run well. He did win a segment in the qualifying race last Friday night to get into the All-Star race, though. But he actually said his car started running out of gas with 2 laps to go. He was told, don't let the 88 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. pass you. He was able to hold on, and my daddy would have sure been proud that he coasted home on fumes to come in second tonight.
That's right. He ran a very good race, but I tell you what, let's give the winner of the race, Carl Edwards, let's give him a lot of accolades too there, Coach, because I was looking over the pit stop, the stops in which a lot of the drivers made and all. You had a lot of them like 11 and 12 stops. Well, he only had 9, which I'm sure helped him to win tonight also.
But
doing it at the right time.
And that's a key, though. That's a part of racing, that not always the best car wins, and that's what's so good about this. I've said it before, I'll say it again, NASCAR is the ultimate team sport because your team has to perform on pit road, the driver has to perform on the track, everybody has to get their ducks in a row in order for you to come home with a victory. Carl Edwards did that tonight, and you got to give them credit too because this is a new team. Carl Edwards, in his first year with the Joe Gibbs team, driving the number 19 car, though, came over from Rouse Racing, and sometimes it takes a couple of years for driver and team to get on the same page, though. But this is big for them. They've run well this year, and pick up a win, and that's going to qualify him for the chase.
Hey, you're absolutely right there, Coop. I tell you what, I applaud all the drivers that performed tonight because I tell you what, this is some kind of fast track, and I'm just amazed to see how fast they go around this track and have no more pilots and what to do. Because like I was talking to you earlier, I don't see how you can go through a race without having a pilot up, but tonight it happened, and we thank the good Lord, they were safe for all the drivers tonight.
And again, the thing too is, Coach Toney, this is a fast track. I mean, I can remember back when David Pearson from Spartanburg set the pole for this track at 161. Well, they're turning laps of 190, 192, 193
right.
on a mile-and-a-half track. That is getting around. And you asked a good question when we were eating our snack. Why is there not more wrecks? Well, these are pretty much your best drivers, race car drivers in the world. I know maybe the people at Indianapolis might differ to beg with you on that one, though, but we've seen very few of the guys that have come over from the Indianapolis cars be able to win, in a big way on the NASCAR circuit. Though, although we do want to congratulate Juan Pablo Montoya, who drove in this race last year, who was the Indianapolis 500 winner. He's been in NASCAR the last few years, went back to the Indianapolis cars. He wins in Indianapolis today.
Hey, you're right there, Coach. And we were just kind of timing. The race started approximately around 6:18, 6:20, and by about 10:20 and 10:25, was heading on the last lap. So that kind of shows you right there how well the race was run, and most of the drivers just stay away from the caution flags.
Our Spartanburg cars didn't do too well tonight. That the number 51 car, based out of the Chesney area up there from Scott Racing, came in last, and we saw him.
I believe he had like 153 laps, I believe it was.
And we actually had to almost crawl over his car when we were going to get us a Coke and a Smile there, that he didn't even get it back to the garage. He just took it back behind pit road here and had it up on jacks, and we had to go by there. But Mike Lynette did finish the race. I think he was maybe 7 laps behind, but he did blow a tire at one time, though.
Like he had what, Coke? Was it 396, 397 laps?
Or 393, I think we said. He was 7 laps behind.
Hey, very good to be able to make that many laps.
In his final appearance in the Coke 600, and I think this may have been his first career win ever, Jeff Gordon. I may be wrong on that, but I know that Charlotte was one of his first big wins. We were on the scanner with him all night, and his car just couldn't get it together. It was tight, it was loose, it was all over though. But Gordon was one of the guys who could not make it on gas. He was running in the top 10. He had to pit, and he came home a disappointing 15th tonight.
Hey, that's correct there. But he was giving his all, Coach. And I think for the most part, all the pit crew and the drivers, they drove extremely well. And I tell you what, once the sun went down there, Coach, kind of got a little cool, and I'm sure that added for some better driving conditions.
It did, and you've got to set the car up to start the race in daylight when it's hot, and the track was pretty hot starting out. It was warm, the sun was shining, and then when you get the rubber laid down by the cars and it gets cool, the track and the car, the way the handles, changes completely on that though. So the crew chiefs have to do their homework to get that car dialed in right to get it to run good for 600 miles.
Those crew chiefs, they're just as much part of winning or losing the race than anything else, because you got some very smart people up there that's making a lot of decisions. Of course, it's like the game of golf. A caddy for the golfer, he may give them suggestions, but it's up to the driver, like in racing, it's up to the professional golfer to make that decision. All
right, Coach Toney, give us your take on tonight, your words of wisdom, your wow on what you learned from the Coca-Cola 600.
Well, one thing I learned there, Coach, I don't think I could get in one of these cars and go about 200 miles an hour. I'll tell you that right now. Like you had mentioned, these drivers, it is a sport, and they're very skillful in what they're doing, and to be able to go as fast as they do and make those quick decisions, not only on the track, but once they get into pit road, I think they do an outstanding job. I certainly enjoyed this evening, Coach.
Well, Coach Toney, the first part of it I know is right. You couldn't get in the car because you're 6'5". Right. These guys are smaller than me. They are all smaller than me, with a few exceptions. Ryan Newman looks like he could play. He graduated from Purdue. Looks like he could play linebacker for Purdue. But there are not very, with the exception maybe of Tony Stewart, any fat race car drivers. These are small little skinny guys that do not weight the cars down though, so you would have trouble getting in the car though. But again, congratulations to the people at Charlotte Motor Speedway, put on a great show. The military celebration before the race was great. ZZ Top, we caught the tail end of that coming in though. We had the wife of the person, the soldier, the American sniper, who brought a book, and I've got a free copy of the book that she was here present as probably telling what it was like to be the wife of an American hero. And so that was kind of interesting. So we got to celebrate Memorial Day in a big way, at one of the biggest celebrations of Memorial Day in the country today.
Hey, that's correct. I tell you what, Charlotte, North Carolina is truly a sports city there, Coach. We've had the opportunity to go, well, you've been up here quite a few times to see the Panthers, the Hornets, but, Road to the Final Four started where, two teams which we saw, and then you saw later on, Duke, Michigan State made. And then last weekend was a big event for Charlotte, too. Wells Fargo, where Rory McIlroy ended up winning that tournament.
And the All-Star race last weekend.
All-Star race, I tell you what, there's a lot of excellent sports activities going on in Charlotte, which is only about, an hour or so from Spartanburg.
All right, before we go, I can't let you go. Did you have a favorite of all the vehicles that people that we saw in the infield when we took our fan tour during the midway point? Did you have a favorite tonight?
Coach, I tell you what, I had about 4 or 5 favorites. I want to tell all the sports fans, you and I, we go to a lot of football games and see a lot of Winnebaggers, but I tell you what, here in Charlotte at the race, I've seen some tremendous size homes, not only by a lot of the drivers, which they had motor homes, but people in general. My question is this: where does all that money come from?
Wow. My favorite sign I saw in there was where they took the speed limit sign and changed it from 15 miles an hour. They got white out and changed it to speed limit 188 miles an hour and put on the sign redneck city limits. You gotta love it.
They probably average. What'd you say the average coming around the track?
Well, they probably
180, 85.
Don't know if we've got the final speed up there. I don't think we've got that though. Right. But probably I'd say when it's all said and done, average speed tonight was going to be 160, 170 because there was not a lot of cautions the first part of the race, but we had a few right there.
Yeah,
We got in the last 100 laps of the race, we picked up a few cautions.
I tell you what, there, Coach, the position where we had, as soon as we saw them come by, it's almost like within a couple minutes, here they come again.
They did. They sure did.
Getting it going around that track.
He's Coach Barry Toney. I'm Coach Cox. Happy Memorial Day. We hope it's a safe one for everybody. Remember what this holiday is all about. No, it's not just a day out of school. It's to remember those that have fought the wars for us to be able to come to races like this and do the things that we have able to do and have given their lives for this country, and we appreciate what they've done.
Happy Memorial Day to everyone.
That wraps it up. NASCAR takes off, heads to Dover, Delaware next week. We will not be there. We will be with you sometime in the future. Until then, have a good, happy holidays. Good night, everybody.
Good evening.